This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
A Victorian timber processor could relocate to Burnie following supply difficulties on the mainland. Australian Sustainable Hardwoods is discussing the move with the state government after rejecting an offer from the Victorian government to purchase the site.
As the troubled timber mill announces its closure over supply difficulties, the state government is welcoming a potential relocation to the northwest.
They're looking at starting at 100,000 cubic metres of plantation timber to start with, and then ramping up from there.
The timber mill is currently located in the small town of Hayfield in Victoria's Gippsland region. Now it's proposing to move to Burnie after rejecting the Victorian government's offer to purchase the facility. The Resources Minister says Tasmania would be able to supply the timber the company needs. The government is considering whether to put incentives on the table.
The company's advised us that it doesn't compete with any of the sawmillers and current key players in the forest sector here in Tasmania.
If a private operator wants to do business in Tasmania on a sustainable basis, they should be able to stand on their own 2 feet.
Burnie's Council and Chamber of Commerce support the proposed move. If it goes ahead, the facility would create more than 100 jobs.
We're not doing enough downstream processing here. We're chipping and sanding, whereas ASH produces timber in terms of flooring and tables and things like that.
The benefits, of course, of such a significant development would be many.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
The state opposition is being criticised for yesterday's no confidence motion following its accusations the Human Services Minister lied to Parliament. During the week dedicated to budget questioning, the government says both Labor and the Greens have dropped the ball.
Another attempt by the opposition to catch out the Human Services Minister in a lie.
And I quote, "He is on the Oversight Committee for the redesign of the child protection system," when in fact that is untrue.
Labor believes that was the trigger of an email chain between the Minister, her department and the Children's Commissioner. It's amid allegations her department made requests not to have sensitive information in writing, denied by Jackie Petrusma.
The opposition have failed to land a single blow, and how could they? Because they failed to properly scrutinise the budget.
After Labor's failed no confidence motion yesterday, the government was on the attack, criticising a lack of budget scrutiny from opposition, targeting the shadow treasurer.
After bringing down that alternative budget, I was starting to wonder whether you had some form of post-traumatic stress disorder, to be frank.
The Greens today seeking its own no confidence motion in hopes of bringing down the Primary Industries Minister. Perceived failings in the salmon industry as moves continue for a fish farm near Triabunna.
There is fury at the decision to approve a 20-year-old lease.
As a result of our very sensible and balanced announcement last week, where we banned 99%. The Mercury Passage.
2 failed motions described as missed opportunities.
Opposition parties who have literally used Parliament this week as political playtime before they head off on holidays.
Parliament resumes in August. Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
A Launceston man accused of stealing $200,000 worth of antique diamond rings and jewellery remains behind bars tonight. It's alleged 28-year-old Joshua Luke Saunders stole the goods from last weekend's Tasmanian Antiques Fair. He's pleaded not guilty.
This is just a small amount of the $200,000 worth of jewellery police allege was stolen from the Tasmanian Antiques Fair. Detectives claim it was taken sometime in the early hours of Monday morning from 2 stalls inside Launceston's Albert Hall.
Any time where $200,000 of jewellery gets stolen is a significant incident.
28-year-old Hadspen man Joshua Luke Saunders has since been charged with burglary and stealing. He appeared in court this morning. He pleaded not guilty to both accusations and didn't apply for bail. Saunders also entered pleas to other previous charges, including not guilty to another robbery at Perth earlier this year. Although police have recovered some of the items taken from here at the Albert Hall, they say a large amount is still missing. They're now urging the public to keep an eye out.
There is a significant amount of antique diamond rings and men's bracelets still outstanding, and we simply ask that any member of the public who may come across these or is offered them for sale or finds them on Gumtree to alert police, and we'll follow it up.
Detectives adding the investigation isn't over.
We hope to lay further charges at a later date.
Saunders has been remanded in custody. The Albert Hall matter is set to go to the Supreme Court in September. Monika Dadson, Southern Cross News.
A 53-year-old man remains in a stable condition tonight after he was struck by a car on Elizabeth Street. The incident happened just after 6 p.m. between the intersections of Warwick and Tasma Street. The pedestrian was taken to the Royal Hobart Hospital, suffering non-life-threatening injuries. Investigations into the cause of the collision are continuing. Tasmania's screen industry is hoping to boost its creative workforce with a new career pathway plan. It's set to foster links between education and vocational colleagues while encouraging creatives to bring forward their ideas.
Incredible creatives in the state, but we also have new opportunities in technology through games development, for example. We have great musicians, we have great people who are fantastic in the areas of narrative. Bringing all of these areas together to build a critical mass is what we're actually needing to do.
We've got fantastic growth when it comes to our creative industries, in particular when it comes to the screen industry, with the success of Rosehaven and Lion, the Kettering incident, just to name a few.
The career pathway plan will be made possible through a state government grant. Dark Mofo continues to spice up Hobart and surrounds, with the first of its kind cruise docking in the city to join the festivities. The voyage is expected to boost the local economy by $1 million as the 2,500 passengers and crew experience the best our state has to offer.
The 6-night maiden voyage arrived from Sydney this morning, just in time for Dark Mofo.
There is that sense of the unexpected. So people are cruising in the spirit of just, being part of something new and different.
It's not the quiet season like it used to be. It really is a really exciting time to be in tourism and hospitality in Hobart.
The passengers and crew said to contribute over $1 million to the economy.
Through passenger spending, through our port fees and our usual charges associated with arriving in Tas, and particularly because we are alongside for 3 days.
Obviously you can tell I've got a belly, so food.
That's the medieval feast.
The food's going to be good for me.
Visitors of all ages keen to join the festivities.
Quite excited about tomorrow. There is going to be a festival. We're quite looking forward to that.
I fancy talks and all that sort of business. Going like a fool, having a good time.
I like all of it.
Many arriving for the first time and say they're excited to visit other tourism drawcards.
Yeah, we might go tomorrow to Bruny Island. It's worth the trip. It is worth it.
The Tourism Industry Council says local businesses are reaping the rewards.
What this really also tells us is that we're onto a winner. This is obviously going to be a significant part of Tasmania going forward.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
The annual Give Me 5 for Kids fundraising drive is continuing, with MPs today chipping in some extra funds after losing a challenge with a playground favourite. Students from Lansdowne Crescent Primary taking on the Pollies to see who could produce the best party tricks using the ever-popular fidget spinners.
This is my debut performance. I'm getting a fair bit of intense opposition here today, by one in particular with a green one, and that's a bad omen.
Meanwhile, in Launceston, it was a fundraising banquet with a difference as attendees were asked to donate what they thought their lunch was worth.
It's amazing to have that many people that are keen to support and keen to help, with a little understanding of where it goes to, but actually put their hands out and say, yeah, we're willing to help. It's awesome.
Since its inception, Give Me 5 for Kids has raised more than $2.6 million for children around Tasmania. More than 100 people have taken to the streets of Hobart in support of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. The Council of the Ageing says most abuse is committed by family members, with sons and daughters accounting for 50% of complaints. Common types of abuse inflicted on seniors include physical, financial, psychological and neglect.
Of emotional or physical harm is a basic human right which most of us take for granted. That basic human right for some members of the elder community is being breached every day.
National studies put the overall rate of elder abuse in Australia as high as 10%. Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. After 2 days of strong gains, the share market has dropped sharply as investors took profits and weaker oil prices dragged down energy stocks. The ASX 200 index has dropped by 70.7 points. And a short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 76.07 US cents and 105.26 New Zealand cents.
Clarence will look to overcome its Twin Ovals curse this weekend when it takes on the Tigers away from home. And a win could potentially see the Roos jump to the top of the league ladder.
They may be one of the competition's true contenders, but Clarence won't take anything for granted against the Tigers this weekend.
Yeah, they've been a bit of a bogey side for us, especially down there. I don't think we've won down there since the back end of 2014.
But the Roos will be bolstered by some big ins.
Ian Curran will play this week. He's been training for 2 weeks, so it's great to have Nut back in. Zach Bushnell will come back in as well. He's obviously a draft prospect this year.
The task could be made more difficult though, with the Tigers brimming with renewed belief following 2 wins on the trot.
We want to make finals, we've got to win some of these games against some of the good sides, and seeing that Hobart City done it early in the year, that gives us hope that we can potentially knock them off this week.
Still winless on the bottom of the ladder, and with finals well out of reach, Devonport host reigning premiers Glenorchy. The Pies coach is under no illusion about the massive task at hand and will be looking for one thing from his young and inexperienced side: 4 quarters of effort.
The last 3 weeks, our effort's been pretty solid. We've been in winning positions in all of those games, so we're extremely respectful of Glenorchy.
The Central Coast Council says the AFL is receptive to the idea of playing a pre-season game on the northwest coast. A new AFL standard oval at Penguin is nearing the halfway mark of construction. The local mayor says the facility would be an ideal location for a match once the complex is complete in March next year.
They're very keen to encourage games up here. Just what level of game that would be, we're not sure.
The Dial Regional Sports Complex will host local football, cricket and soccer. The site will include a large function centre. Arrows and Northern Hawks are preparing for another grand final rematch when they do battle in the State Netball League on Saturday. The Hawks come into the latest contest full of confidence after convincing wins over Kingston and Devon. Arrows co-captain Kate Prince says she expects a much closer match this time after a comfortable win earlier in the season.
We obviously played that first game without Sophie Gunn and Hayley Sansom, so we're looking forward to playing them with our full side this weekend.
In the weekend's other games, Cavs play Kingston, Cripps take on Devon and Burnie will do battle with Karana. Tasmania's own Olympic rowing star Megan Volker is gearing up to compete at the prestigious Henley Royal Regatta in England. She'll be joined by 3 other Australians for the inaugural Women's 4 event at the world-renowned competition.
Up bright and early to hone their techniques for the prestigious 178-year-old Henley Regatta.
Pretty amazing. They're pretty big regattas. They're regattas a lot of people aim for throughout the season.
Rio Olympian and Hobart local Megan Volker says she's thrilled to represent Australia at the inaugural Women's 4 event and compete against some of the world's best.
To have your name on that trophy would be an absolute honour.
We just hope that helps lift the profile of the sport, provides an incentive for young women to stay in the sport and aspire to go to World Championships and Olympic Games.
The crew, Addie Dunkley-Smith, Kate Rowan and Kate Micklemore, are spending hours on the water this week, rowing up to 18 kilometres a morning. They've flown in from interstate to train with Volker, who's juggling training with studying for her final university exams.
You can never predict what's going to happen and how other crews are going to race, so as long as we stick in our boat and do our own thing, we can only come off happy from that.
I've got one key element. They want to know how to row hard, and if you can't do that, you'll never be successful.
They depart next Tuesday and will also compete in Amsterdam. They hope this international experience will prepare them to be selected for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, where the Women's 4 event will also be hosted for the first time. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Good evening, Hobart, Launceston and Burnie all 16 today. Devonport recording 15 degrees, while the top was 18. That was recorded by Campania and Dunalley. Temperatures between 2 and 6 degrees above average. St Helens, Friendly Beaches, Grove and Ouse 17. Smithton and Bushy Park 16. Maria Island 15. Cressy 14 today. Butler's Gorge 12 and Mount Reid 6. There is low-level cloud around Tasmania with a band approaching from the west. Another band of cloud extends from WA right through to southeast Australia. A large area of mid to upper level cloud is over the Coral Sea. And around our region, low level cloud over most of the state, heavier over the west. Tomorrow the high is still hanging about but is losing its strength, and other high forms over southern WA with a weak trough and low over South Australia. The wind's mostly westerly at 10 to 15 knots, tending west-northwesterly at 15 to 20 knots over the south with a 3-metre swell. A cloudy Friday for Hobart, 15 the high, 15 with a possible early shower for Huonville, Campania, 16 degrees. Launceston partly cloudy, 5 overnight, 16 the top, 15 for Devonport. Maybe an early shower for Georgetown, 14 the high. Burnie a possible shower and 15, 14 for Strawn, a possible shower for Wynyard and 15 degrees. And for St Helens, mostly sunny, 16, 16 for Swansea, partly cloudy for Port Arthur, fine and 15. To the weekend. Showers over the west and northwest with fine weather elsewhere. Fine on Sunday too, apart from an early shower over the west, south and Bass Strait Islands. Mainly fine on Monday, but once again a shower over the west. Mostly sunny for Perth, Melbourne and Darwin tomorrow. Cloudy for Adelaide and Sydney. Possible showers forecast for Brisbane and Cairns.
Thank you very much, Murph. That's all from the news team for now. Thanks for joining us. Good night.